Hello. Oops. All right. I was trying to unmute you. Oh, there you are. Okay, so right now you're unmuted and you can say hello. You can also hide video. You can do whatever you want.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Oh, it's so good to see you. So when you come in, you are muted and you have video. And you can choose to unmute or not. And you can choose to have video or not. So those are all an option. Yay! And I'm looking for the, okay. And there's the, why isn't the chat bar? Oh, we're going to put the chat bar up as the right size. There, but it isn't working. Okay, there it is. Now I have a chat bar, so if you have comments, you can put them in the chat. And, okay, there. What else do you need to know about Zoom? Let's see. If you haven't used it before, yeah, video is the part that you care about, and the video, yeah, your picture and sound. So you'll come in on automatically on mute. And we're in my home office. And do you see what's on the wall behind me? By the way, yay, it's what I got from my publisher when I published Own Best Friend, 8 Steps to a Life of Purpose, Passion, and Ease. So that's up there. In any case, I want to get started telling you all about what psychology and shamanism have in common. So, you know, I'm Christina Hallett, yay! And I practice as a psychologist and a shaman. And I'm going to be sharing my screen, and then you'll see me in a little teeny box. And here we go. Let's see. Okay. So, hopefully this works. There we go. Look. Okay. And there. So this is a pretty important topic from my perspective, because one of the things that I think that we need to do is utilize all of the tools that are available to us in the work that we do. And ideally, as you can see on the screen, what we want, you can see it, right? Like someone raise their hand and wave and say, yeah, I can see it. Thank you. Yay. Okay. So what we want is we want to be healthy. And we want to be healthy in mind, body, and spirit. And traditionally, when we think about psychology, we think about a healthy mind, and we often work on the body. But the spirit is important too. And it's all important because we're a 3-part whole. We are not just a body. We're clearly not just a mind, because that would be sort of creepy, like we'd just be minds hanging around. And we're not just a spirit. And sometimes people will say we are a spiritual being having a human experience. And that's one way that you can look at it. But what I'd like you to conceive of is that we are actually a 3-part whole. And so there's everything about our physical body, and then there's also our emotional self, there's our conscious mind, and then there's our connection to the world as a whole. And psychology and actually quantum physics have moved into this understanding in more recent years, which is pretty awesome because that makes sense. But why am I talking about shamanism? Okay, so that's what psychologists figured out. Yay, good for psychology and counseling and everything else, and quantum physics. But we're comparing this to shamanism because so much of the indigenous messages, which way predated the study of psychology, say the same thing. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Here's your main slide about what we're going to be reviewing. And don't worry, we will absolutely have time for questions. If you have questions right now, you can certainly add them in, or you can unmute yourself and add in a comment or a question at any time. So shamanism has a few main components. There's this understanding of universal energy, and that we as humans, but we all things, we plants, we stones, we trees, natures, okay, plants and trees, I know. But it's all connected, and it's a huge universal energy. And shamanism refers to different kinds of archetypes to help us focus our thinking and to understand what's going on in different aspects of our body, mind, and spirit. And the third thing that shamanism does is it utilizes our body sensations. So we become aware of our body and how we feel and what we feel where as an indication to us of what else is going on for us energetically and in terms of our connection to universal energy. So that makes sense, right? Okay, that doesn't sound too odd. I mean, if you begin to think about, oh, well, what are they doing and what's all of that? Wait, I have it. What's all of that rattling and stuff like that? Those are aspects of how one would practice that. Little note here, by the way, shamanism is a healing and a spiritual practice, but it's not a religion. It is not incompatible with any set of faith beliefs, including non-faith beliefs. So, in case you were wondering, have no fear. You can come from any perspective whatsoever and still both understand and benefit from using energy. So Carl Jung is somebody that I am going to mention in terms of psychology. So he was one of the early big names. You've probably heard about Jung before. And he talked about, if you remember Freud talked about the conscious, the subconscious, right? Preconscious, all of that. Jung talked about our unconscious, but as a collective. And according to Jung, every one of us, in fact, the whole world, was able to tap into, we have our own consciousness, and then able to tap into this collective unconscious. And Jung also used certain archetypes to define the different parts of ourselves and our connection to the rest of the world. Beginning to see a theme here? I know. Positive psychology, and there's so many others that compare. I've just picked these three things from psychology as a way for you to really hopefully see this connection. So positive psychology focuses on things like creating pleasure, flow, and meaning in our lives. And it's about not coming from a disease model, which is what we do in traditional psychiatric practice, but positive psychology says, where are you and how can you move forward? And let's talk about what's good or how you can feel better. So not just going from feeling bad to neutral, but that next stage of moving forward. And sensory motor psychotherapy. And sensory motor psychotherapy, which is a newer subfield in psychology, really works on the use of the sensations in your body. It's a big theory that we use in working with trauma, and it's about getting in touch with how we feel in our body and where we feel in our body. So when I look at this screen, what I see right away is this huge similarity between those. I hope you're seeing that too. So these are some of the Q'ero shamans, and they actually speak a language called Quechua. They live in the Andes in Peru. And in essence, what happened is that when Spain came in and the conquistadors, of course, there was this whole movement to move everyone to Catholicism. And so the Q'ero fled to the Andes, and they went to live in the mountains in the Andes. And what you see that they're wearing are traditional dress that they weave themselves. And it's typically the women who are doing the weaving. And if I move a little, behind me, you can see this is one of those weavings. They're all done by hand. They're amazing. And there's these brilliant colors. And what you can see in front of them on the ground, there's a couple different things, but the little bundles that you can see are what are called mesas, or a portable altar, or a sacred healing bundle. Here, this is mine, right here. And if you look in front of the woman, they're doing a despacho ceremony. So they're doing a ceremony of gratitude and thanksgiving in this particular picture. So the Caro is the tradition that I've studied. So we're going to talk about them. And central to what the Caro believe is this concept of Aini. Aini means sacred reciprocity. It means that we're in right relationship. People today sometimes say we're in alignment, but we're in right relationship with our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. And for the Caro, this means not just to ourselves, but also to the world around us. And that's one of the special gifts that they have to offer us, because it's recognizing that there's a give and take between everything that exists. So not just person to person, although that's a part of it, but also person to nature, right? So we, let's say we water a plant and the plant gives us oxygen, right? That's the sacred reciprocity, that there's always a give and take, and that our job is to be honoring or in balance with all of everything, all of the world, and within ourselves, right? So from my perspective, that actually takes, psychology is saying, yeah, the same kind of thing, right? It's a version of Aini, personal Aini. Get in alignment or right relationship between your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. That makes sense. That's the whole point of cognitive behavior therapy, right? Like alter your thoughts and alter your actions so that you get to feel better, so that you get to be in the kind of place that you want to be. But the Caro take this beyond the personal and really talk about our connection to all things. Jung, this is a quote from him, "I am not what has happened to me, I am what I choose to become." Now, I just want to say that there's a real connection between this statement of Jung and the tenets of positive psychology. The back of my business card, some of you know this, it says, happiness is a choice. It's work, but it's a choice. And today's studies of quantum physics, if you've read anything or heard anything by Dr. Bruce Lipton, Dr. Joe Dispenza, there's a whole center through Mass General, all across, certainly the United States, but really across the world, we are beginning to understand that there are the things that happen to us, but that we have agency in who we are and how our life is going forward. And that we can direct our attention and our understanding to have the results that we want. Sometimes you'll also hear this talked about, this isn't psychology, this is a little aside, but sometimes you'll also hear this talked about when people talk about the law of attraction or The Secret. If you've read or heard anything about The Secret, there's a movie for that too. I haven't seen the movie, but I read the book. Yep, of course, who doesn't? So, but the law of attraction is based on our findings as well from quantum physics, that we can direct who we want to be and how we want to be. That's exciting. I know. So, both shamanism and Jungian psychology talk about the importance of the sacred or the spiritual, and that the sacred is also a part of nature and throughout the whole, what Jung called imageal world. And that one of the things that goes on is that man, look at this, man has fallen, man, woman, all humanity, humanness has fallen out of consistent connection with wholeness. Aini, wholeness. Jung, shamanism. I know. Are you getting excited? I know, I love this. Bessel van der Kolk, he's a giant in trauma treatment, and he says, this is a quote from his book, The Body Keeps the Score, and the point of that whole book is that when we've gone through difficult experiences, they're lodged in feeling centers in our bodies. We also know that they're a part of the amygdala. Right? We know how we store things both in the brain, but we store it in the body. It's not just the kind of memory that we've thought about. There's a physical memory as well. And so according to Bessel van der Kolk, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, we can, and this is from neuroscience, right? We can change the way we feel by becoming aware of our inner experience and learning to befriend what is going on inside of us. If you know me at all, And remember I mentioned at the beginning, own best friend, 8 steps to life of purpose, passion, and ease. So befriending what is going on, that's a really important part of becoming your own best friend, which in other words, becoming your own best friend is really about harmony or alignment. And it's about the actions, the thoughts, and the emotions that you have some ability to alter and shift to go where you want to go, to have the freedom to be and to choose who to be that gives you the life you want to live. So Reiki, acupuncture, Chinese medicine, there's a lot that talks about the meridians, right? And here you can see a picture of the 7 chakras and then the meridians throughout the human body. So, interestingly enough, one of the things that we do in psychology is we work on breathing, right? So we do these deep breaths to bring us up and relax. But what we're also doing when we do that is we're activating our meridian system, right? So we're oxygenating our brain, but we're also activating this meridian system. And if you go in for acupuncture or traditional Chinese medicine, there's a working, or even acupressure, there's a working along these meridian lines, which are energy lines, right? Energy, energy, shamanism, we're getting there. So shamans work within this as well. Shamans have a similar understanding of the energy centers in our body and work within those energy centers and within our sort of expanded energy that forms sort of a bubble around us. What you can think of when you think about that is the idea of personal space, right? So you know what this is like. You walk into a crowded room and you don't know anybody, or you're looking for somebody you know, and what do? You sort of, most of us pull our personal space in. We don't want to get too close to other people because we're still checking out. Is this a safe place? Where can we be comfortable? Totally understandable. A similar example is you walk into a place with people that you know and you care about, and whoosh, okay, it doesn't make those noises, but I do. Your energy body opens up because you want that connection to those people. And so if you think about it, think about somebody that you've met and you instinctively really felt drawn to them. It's almost like you wanted to hug them or be close to them, right? Your energy body and their energy body were like, ooh, we sort of like hanging out together, right? And you can tolerate much closer. In fact, you probably want closer physical proximity, contrasted to someone that comes up to you and you immediately have this sense of, not so much, like this doesn't feel right. And in part, what doesn't feel right is your energy body is like, I don't really like their energy body. I want to pull back some from that, okay? So similarly, this is what it is. And today's neuroscience is beginning to actually measure that. There are all sorts of studies that are able to measure what some people call the aura or your energetic body. I mean, there's all sorts of ways to talk about it. But those are just words, right? It doesn't matter. Don't get caught up in the language. What occurs is that there is a measurable energy body that you have that you can expand and contract, and you can learn how to do that, right? Pretty awesome. So that is a skill, and it's also a skill that helps you be more comfortable in whatever setting it is that you're in. So I bet you've heard of Deepak Chopra, right? And this is a picture. I love this. This sort of shows our meridians, but how they expand out in terms of our energetic body, right? And you'll notice in this quote how we perceive the body. Instead of just saying we're just this body, we're this flow of energy. So if you look at the flow lines in the picture, you see how they come up and circle out, and they continually to go out. And that's what we are. We have energy flowing through our bodies. It tends to go through those 7 sort of chakras that line up along the central meridian point. Okay, so back to Jung for a little bit, because we're going to save the shaman stuff specifically for later on, but I want to give you some things so that hopefully what you're doing is saying, oh yeah, no, I totally get that. Of course they're connected. Like there's so much in common. So here's how Jung looks at the world. There's the outer world, and then you can see at the bottom, there's your inner world. And who you are, the self, is sort of at the core. Then there's what you show to the world. So if we go this way, right, that's your, you could call it your ego or your persona, the way you present to the world. And then underneath that is what Jung refers to as the anima, animus, the female and male archetypes, but our shadow. Those are the parts of us that we often try to hide from the world, that we don't want people to see. That's our dark side. And the reality is that we all have that. There is no such thing as a perfect human being, right? Because we're human. And human means that we are complex and that we are a mix of strengths and areas that are not in our best interest. That's okay. And part of our goal is to get to Aini, to get to right relationship, to live as our best self. And truthfully, we don't ever finish that. Often, you've heard the onion analogy, and like you deal with something and then you peel back another layer and you deal with it again, and like you get 5 layers down and you're like, oh my God, is this ever going to be done? And it's like the infinite onion. Okay, I talked to somebody about that the other day, and they said, I don't want to be referred to an onion. And not only did they not want to be referred to as an onion, but they're like, why do I want to get to the center of the onion? Like, so what? Okay, so you don't have to think about yourself as an onion. But what I do want you to understand is that you are imperfect, because we all are, and you're absolutely perfect in that imperfection. You are who you are today, and that's great. And good news, you get to continue to learn and grow to move further and further closer to Aini. It doesn't mean you'll never screw up. It doesn't mean you'll never have negative thoughts, because you already are this combination of who you are as a core and the parts that you don't feel so comfortable with, your darker parts, and how you present to the world, and they're all mixed up together. You can also see on the slide that there's the collective unconscious, the personal unconscious, and then there's consciousness, what we're aware of. And often it's our shadow parts, so to speak, that are connecting to that collective unconscious. I know. So here's another way of looking at Jung's archetypes. And again, you can see it's starting from the self. So the persona, as we said, that's how we're interacting with the public. It's our social role. The shadow, it's not really a devil, right? That's just a way of speaking about the shadow. And one of the ways that you can discover some of your shadow, this is fabulous. It's sometimes very eye-opening, not always what you want. But if you want to connect with your shadow, think of somebody who really, really irritates you, somebody who just bugs you to death. And think about what it is that you really, it's like fingernails on chalkboard about them. If you're thinking about the 3, let's say 3, qualities of that person who just, they make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, and you're like, really don't like hanging with them at all. Yeah. According to Jung, and I agree, you look at those characteristics, and they're a mirror to some of that shadow part in you. Now, it doesn't mean they're exactly the same, and it doesn't mean you take the same actions, but the characteristics of that person, yeah, the things that we struggle most about with other people are the things that we are having a hard time acknowledging and dealing with in ourselves, our shadow. So that's a quick tip to do that. Interestingly, you can do the same thing with somebody. This is the fabulous part. You can do the same thing with somebody that you really admire, look up to. It could be a public figure, somebody you know. It can be past or present. But if you think of 3 characteristics that really draw you to them, where you're like, they just warm my heart. I think they're fantastic. Those characteristics, they're also a mirror, right? Because there's balance. Because you're imperfect and you're a mix. So there's these fabulous parts of you that you continue to grow, and there's these other parts where they're not probably serving you in your best interest, and there's growth potential there as well. But nothing is good or bad, right? Really, and this is a piece from shamanic healing. I was going to say from shamanism, but shamanic healing, that I don't think we utilize enough in psychology. In shamanic healing, there is no good or bad. There's what serves you and what no longer serves you. And it's energy. That's it. It's not good or bad. There's no judgment. It's either serving you in your best interest or it's not serving you. It's not in your best interest. If you're familiar with DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, and you think about the idea of wise mind, which is sort of getting a little objective and looking at yourself, it's about understanding the dialectic or two opposing thoughts, feelings, or beliefs that can both be true at the same time without judgment. That's the same thing, right? There's energy that serves you, or thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that serve you, and there's energy that doesn't serve you, or thoughts, feelings, and behavior that does not serve your best interest without judgment. But judgment includes saying that's good or that's bad. I know, I always struggle with that. I'm like, oh, but we're all good with saying it's good. But truthfully, that's also a judgment. But the part I really want you to focus on is that's bad. That's bad about me. That's bad about someone. If we move to a place of non-judgment, or using the DBT terminology, if we're sort of in wise mind, looking down objectively and neutrally on a situation, then we're not saying that's bad or that's good. We're saying, okay, that sort of works for you or that doesn't work for you. I know, right? And it's all towards moving to alignment or I need, or being the person you want to be, whatever, however you want to think about it. The animus is the masculine side of the female psyche, and the anima is the female side of the male psyche, just so you know. And then we can access through our imagination, that's visualization in psychology, right? Think about that. And then the collective unconscious, right? That says through, it should be thought forms, not through. Sorry about that. But shamanic journeying is a way in which we connect to the collective unconscious so that you can gather understanding and sort of tap into the wisdom and energy of the universe. Oh, so exciting. Little bit here about positive psychology. So if you look, I love the ice cream cone, right? Except it's strawberry and chocolate, whatever. I might have picked some different flavors. Doesn't really matter. But if you think about the ice cream cone, this is a great analogy of positive psychology and how we think about happiness. So we need meaning in our life. That's sort of the base. That's the cone. And it could be a cup, but you can't eat the cup. That's why we have the cone, because it's edible. So the cone is meaning. And then flow, when you're into something and you're not self-conscious and time just disappears, that's sort of the ice cream, right? That's what we put and connect with meaning. So it's an activity that has meaning for us and our connection to what matters to us and to the world. And flow is the activity that we do. And the cherry on top, or whipped cream, or whatever you want, sprinkles. I prefer sprinkles. So we called them jimmies when I grew up, but sprinkles. So I would do sprinkles instead of a cherry, but that's the pleasure. So happiness is this combination of meaning and flow and the experience of pleasure. Now, think about it. There are cognitive things, there are emotional things, and there are actions. And if you look at this whole picture, it's somewhat similar to this idea of being in I-me, right? At least individually. So, and then some of the things that you can do. So you're managing your mood, right? That's how you feel. Are you in right relationship with your feelings? Do you recognize them and manage them, not judge them? An action. Do you use your strength? Do you make good decisions? Do you celebrate your successes? So I am all about woohoo, woohoo, right? But if we think about sort of the basics of positive psychology, it's about how do you get in alignment with your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. And those of you who know me know, one of the things that I always say is you, and only you, are responsible for your thoughts, feelings, and actions. And everybody else is responsible for their own thoughts, feelings, and actions. So you can't be responsible for anyone else's because you're only in charge of you. But the good news is you're in charge of you. I know. So empowering. Okay. This is a slide that's related to sensory motor psychotherapy. And it's literally tells us about what's going on in our brain. And so there's our prefrontal cortex or our frontal lobes, and then there's the amygdala, which is here in the limbic system, and then the brainstem's in the back. And literally, when we experience trauma or something that doesn't serve us, quite frankly, what happens is we stop thinking clearly, and we move into this amygdala or reactive sense part of our brain. And what the amygdala does is it's a big, like huge fire alarm system, and it kicks off your autonomic nervous system. And what it does is it sends out all these neurotransmitters throughout your body to say, speed up the heart rate and slow down digestion and decrease your immune response and flood your body with cortisol and adrenaline, the things that give you energy. And that happens because when the fire alarm is pulled, hello, you need to do something. And your body is preparing you to do something. It's preparing you to do either fight, you know that, flight, or freeze. There's three: fight, flight, or freeze. We haven't always talked a lot about freeze, but freeze, just so you know, totally normal life experience. And it comes from nature as well. Think about the bunny or the deer. Hop, 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 hop. I'm a bunny. Hop, hop, hop. I see a predator. What do? Freeze. Same thing with the deer. What's that phrase? Like a deer caught in the headlights, because the deer has frozen, right? So fight, flight, and freeze. So those are the three responses that we have automatically when we sense a threat, right? And this is related to, and this is important because all of our experiences that we've gone through are stored in our body. So one of the things that we have to learn to do in sensory motor psychotherapy is learn to be aware of what's going on in our body and how it's connected to meaning that we have. So remember, what did we say about the shamans? They're working within your body, dealing with energy connected to things that serve you or don't serve you. Okay, so in this picture, there's actually two of the same, the two shaman on the left are the same in the first picture. They're Caro. The one on the far right is different to this picture. And the gentleman in the black sweater, that's Dr. Alberto Villoldo. He is the head of the Four Winds Society, and he is one of the people who has worked really hard to bring the knowledge of the Caro to the Western world. And I've studied with Dr. Villoldo. I was in Peru last year with him. So, ready? Here we are. Now I think you're going to be seeing how this all connects. So for the Caro, there's a medicine wheel, and it's associated with the four directions. Because remember, the Caro say we're all connected in all ways. And so it starts in the south. So here we're going to have archetypes and directions. Okay? In the south is your physical body. And it's also what you can think about as the hero. But it's associated with the serpent. And that's because what is the main action of a serpent? It moves along close to the earth, right? So Pachamama, or Mother Earth, right? That's what the serpent connects with. So that's your physical body. And what does a serpent or a snake do? It sheds its skin. So part of the wisdom of the South and of the serpent is the shedding of your past, the way a serpent sheds its skin, a shedding of your physical experience. In the West is the jaguar, and that's also the luminous warrior, and that is your emotional self. And it's all about empowerment. So what does the jaguar or the panther do? I know I like even talking about it, I stand up. Hint, I have a strong spiritual connection to this animal. So the puma or the jaguar, right? They are a top predator. But they don't go around like killing other things for fun. Like they don't have to. The wisdom of the jaguar is being fully embodied in yourself. So now both your physical and your emotional self. You're not afraid, right? You're this luminous warrior. So you don't get defensive. You don't need to attack others. And you don't stop out of fear. You're like, oh yeah, I know who I am. I am super comfortable in my body. I have strength. I'm empowered. And I can deal with whatever comes up. So I don't have to hide from something or do something just because I'm afraid. right? So the jaguar really helps us deal with our emotions as well as the physical body. And then the north is the hummingbird. And the hummingbird is associated with the air and spiritual healing. So, right, we said mind, body, spirit. So what do we have here? We have body, emotions, mind, and spirit. So the hummingbird, one of the super cool things about the hummingbird is, and I don't know if you know this, but a hummingbird will go someplace and it'll try a flower. And if it doesn't get the nourishment it needs, it just doesn't go back, right? It drinks deeply the nectar of each passing moment, but with the wisdom to go again to those places that allow it to continue to be fed and nourished and grow. It doesn't keep going back and repeating past mistakes, right? So this is spiritual connection. And for the Caro, the hummingbird is also what connects us to, because time is circular, that's a whole other webinar, we'll talk about that another time, but it connects us to all of our ancestry. So all those who have come before and all those who are yet to come. It's our complete collective unconscious connection. And then the east is associated with the condor or the eagle and the mountains. And that is the manifesting. The eagle or the condor, that's where the secret and the law of attraction is sort of coming in that area. Or if you do in psychology, if you're visualizing, like what does an athlete do? A sports psychologist will teach an athlete to visualize themselves being successful in whatever the sport it is. So Tiger Woods visualizes his swing as well as physically practicing it. Right? And there's so many studies, by the way, the psychology studies on what we can do with simply visioning and our brain are amazing. Here is one quick little study on this very topic. So there was a group of people and they were going to measure finger strength, right? So one group did this motion a certain number of times for a certain length of time over a certain period of time, right? And so they measured the finger strength before the person took this action and after, group of people. Then there was another group of people. And those people, they measured their finger strength before, and then they visualized themselves doing the same action, but they didn't actually do it. They visualized themselves doing the same action the same amount of times for the same length of time over the same period of time. Then there was a third group who did nothing. They just measured their finger strength before the full period of time and at the end. And here's the amazing part. So the people who did nothing, there was no change in their finger strength. Why would there be? They weren't doing anything, right? They weren't building any muscles. The people who were doing the action had a significant increase, a measurable increase in finger strength because, you know, they kept doing that motion. Right? It makes sense. But the amazing part is the group in the middle, the group who did not physically take the action, but simply envisioned themselves taking the action, also showed an increase in physical finger strength. Now, in reality, it wasn't quite as much as the people who did it. Okay, that's understandable, but it was significant, and it was way more than the people who did nothing. It wasn't quite there. It was probably about 75% of the increase in figure strength. But can you imagine? Just by envisioning the action, they were able to increase strength. That is what the East is also talking about, okay? Envisioning your future. Okay, so this is Sachamama, and I just wanted to show you each of the archetypes, right? And again, as we said, that's the physical body, and the names that I'm giving you are the names the Caro use in Quechuan. So Sachamama, Otorango, or the jaguar. I know, it looks pretty cool, right? You can see that power, but also confidence. Don't think anger or not aggressive fierce. Like if I need to take care of myself, I will, but I'm just sort of totally comfortable with who I am. Sirakinti, it's a Quechuan word for the hummingbird. And did you know they will travel all the way from North America to South America once a year and then come back once a year? That little, teeny little hummingbird, right? think of the amazing strength in that and the lessons. And Apuchin, Apus are the mountains, so Apuchin is the Quechuan word for the condor or the eagle. Okay, so the mesa or the medicine bundle and the rattle are two of the main things that are used. And I'm going to show you a picture of what's inside my medicine bundle, my mesa. This is a picture of my mesa, and inside it are a variety of stones. There's 13, and that's 3 for each of the 4 directions. And then the 13th stone is the stone that energetically connects this bundle with the mesas of all of those who are energetically and shamanically inclined. But it's also, if you think about it, so we've got the 4 directions, but there's 2 pieces that we didn't talk about that are really important, because there's really 6 that are vastly important. And one is the earth and our connection to the earth, or Pachamama. And from Pachamama, growth happens. But we can't have growth without the sun. So Inti Tai Tai, or Father Sun, and the moon help, by shining down, help the growth from the earth. Now, one of the things that I talk about when I talk about shamanic healing is the fact that shamanic practice removes energy that no longer serves you. It's not bad, it's just no longer serving you. And it gives it back to the earth, to Pachamama. I call this the process of soul composting. I know it's not the sexiest of names, because compost, but really, here's the thing. And here's the hope in this. This is what is phenomenal. Because if you take out the energy that doesn't serve you, you're not bad, it's not bad, it's just not working for you, right? It's sort of like, I don't know, you didn't finish that ear of corn. So what are you going to do with it? You're going to compost it, so it's going to give back to the earth and benefit the rest, right? The rest of the world. So when you take out energy, we shift energy that isn't serving us and we give it back to the earth. Pachamama works with that and sort of composts it so that it's available for use for the world, because it's neither good nor bad. It's like, what works for me doesn't work for you, because we're different. We're unique in our perfect imperfection. And then we, of course, need the sun and the rain and the moon, all of that, right, to enhance growth. So the earth and the sky allows us to be connected. And if you think about Reiki, right, Reiki is sort of drawing on the energy, the collective energy, but the Reiki, from the energy from on high, and we connect down, we ground down. And what is one of the main things that we do in psychology? We teach people to ground themselves, right, to connect to the earth and to this present moment. So, and this just that's a picture as well of the inside of my mesa. And literally when I began talking about this, quick little story, I was trying to talk about how I combine psychology and shamanic practice. And so one night I was falling asleep and the name Wisdom Healing came to me. I'm like, oh, Wisdom Healing was, I'm like, I repeated it 8 times so I would remember it. And then I woke up in the morning, I'm like, oh, Wisdom Healing. And who do I work with? I work with real people for real change. What you see in the middle is a red-tailed hawk feather. And that's another animal that I have a very significant connection to. So, right, so it's like real people, real change, because that's what I do. That's what I do as a psychologist. That's what I do with shamanic practice. Anyway, about a year after, so I'd been using this name, and about a year later, one day I was thinking, oh, how do I really actively connect those identities so they're full, so I'm in alignment, right? So it's all just one piece. And I'm thinking about it, and all of a sudden I said, well, I'm a psychologist and I'm a shamanic practitioner. And I'm like, oh my God. And then it hit me. Wisdom, psychologist. Healing, shamanic practice. Wisdom, indigenous wisdom, healing, psychologist practice. Like wisdom, healing. It's both. It's the whole thing. That was the whole thing. So I did not even know that at the time. And I'm going to try to stop sharing. There we go. And we're back, boo, to full screen. So yay. I didn't have any idea when that name came to me. But literally, that's what I do, and that's where that's connected. So this is a time for you guys to either unmute, which would be awesome, or if you really don't want your voice, that's okay. type in a message into the chat. Let me hear some of your thoughts and your questions and your comments about the commonalities between psychology and shamanism. Come on. Up. And tell me something before I call on you. All right. And okay, I'm just going to unmute you guys. Let's see. Diana, there. Tell me something, Diana. What do you think?
Thank you for the spark.
So, what are your thoughts? Does psychology have anything in common with shamanism?
Oh, come on.
I know,
And
but they don't know
spit
you.
out the coffee.
I know, but speak to it, baby, because not everybody, they don't know you like I know you. They don't know what you think.
You're right. And honestly, I just love you so much. I really do. And I miss you like crazy. And I saw this like 3 minutes before it started this morning, and I had to join.
I love you so much. I'm so thrilled. This is so much fun to share with you. And, you know, I know that there's so many other ways that the field of mental health and shamanism have things in common. These are just some of the main ones that I came up with. Do you personally have any questions about this? I promise, unmute other people because I want to hear from everybody.
Well, I really just want to show you, if I can turn my video back on, what is sitting on the table next to me. As I'm sitting there, hold on. Whoop, wait, there it is. Okay, so this is sensory motor psychotherapy.
Fantastic.
On the table next to me.
That's awesome. I love it, right? And so now, have you read it yet, or are you just starting to read it?
I've picked it up and put it down and picked it up and put it down, but it's part of what I'm working on. And it's so funny because I had a conversation the other day with someone about getting back into the shaman practice. So there's a lot of good stuff here.
Awesome. Thank you. And that's why, I mean, literally, is that Pat Ogden?
Yeah.
Is that her name? Yeah. I mean, so inspirational. Was at a training with her a few years ago. And it really hit me as I talked to her and learned more about how she works with the physical body, this connection. And it really, what made me so happy was to think, wow, these practices, we use different words for them. And there's some differences, but they're really those overlapping circles, you know, just like across all psychological theories, right? Everybody has a relationship with someone. We don't necessarily call it the same thing. We don't use the same words, but I'm so excited that you're reading that. Yay.
Well, and it was just so fantastic to hear that connection this morning. It was good. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Okay, so who else would like to unmute themselves and make a comment or ask a question? And if you don't, I will, because that's how I roll. We've got somebody over here calling in from 617 area. I know who this is, and your picture's not there. You're just on the phone. So kisses and hugs to you. Would you like to say a quick hello and any questions or comments?
I'm simply saying hello. I love you very much, and I love everything that you're saying. And yes, I do see the very strong connection between the practice of psychology and shamanism. There's no question. And you I think have helped to convince me that, yeah, earth to earth, dust to dust, and renewal. And that's all part of the shamanic understanding, and mine as well. Love you, darling.
Love you. Can I say who you are?
I recognize that voice.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's my mama. Hi, Mom. Love you. And I will put you on mute again, Mom, so you don't have to keep doing this. But I'm going to share one thing. So, what did I do? All right, there we go. Okay, so one thing that was really helpful is rattling. And I want to share something with you that we know from science. So it could be rattling, it could be drumming, doesn't matter. But anything that vibrates at the level of 4 to 7 hertz per second that induces a meditative state. So when we do the work on journeying and how we use shamanic journeying for clarity, really what we're doing is using things that we now can sort of justify or come to based in science. Right? It's very similar to the use of a mantra or any other repetitive sound. So we've got a couple other people who are here, and I'm going to check in with you and see what you think. So it's a toss-up. Would either of you like to unmute before I unmute you myself and ask what you think? I create terror in the hearts of my listeners. I know I do. All right. So, hey, Gail, what are your thoughts? Questions, ideas?
Well, I have just recently been introduced to this whole idea. I just did a series probably of about a dozen shamanic treatments or shamanic sessions, which absolutely amazed me what he was able to see in my field and shifts that occurred. Honestly, I really feel myself sinking again into a depression and realizing that I'm very contracted in a lot of my life. And so I'm listening to you and thinking about where do I go from here, because it very, very much speaks to me.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. One of the things that I can just let you know is that I have a course, and I'm also in the midst of putting together a group. So 2 different things, but where I teach people about the basics of self-healing through utilizing shamanic techniques, some of the things that I'm talking about. And part of what's so important to me in people understanding the commonalities between psychology and shamanism is, I think so much of the time, and apparently you had a great experience, so that's great. When I started on this, I thought it was really weird. I'm like, energy, like it was sort of more something I did for fun than something that I believed in. But my own practice and my own healing and the access to being who and how I am changed above and beyond where psychology brought me. So that's for me where those come together. And so you can feel free to, in the chat, you can put your email or a phone number. I'm happy to connect with you outside of this to talk about resources or ways that I could be of service to you.
That'd be awesome. Because I've been drawn to energetic work for a long time. I've done a little bit of healing touch. I'm a Reiki level 2. I've had some amazing experiences, especially with animals. I really like to work, especially with horses. But for myself, I just end up back in a block.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will do that.
All right. Sounds great. All right. And, okay. How about you, Jill? Hi.
Well, I like science and data, and so I love the connections. And so my mind is racing, connecting it with 10 other things already, but awesome.
That's fantastic. I know that science and data, like that's where I trained, that's where I come from. And that's partly why when I first was introduced to this, I'm like, wow, this stuff is weird. And frankly, and those of you who know me know this, initially I was really afraid of losing all professional credibility. Like in my mind, the rest of the professional mental health community was going to think I sort of went over the edge into something that had no connection to science and data. And what's really excited me, and this is in the past 5 years particularly, is that science, particularly quantum physics, but also all of the other mind, body, spirit healing practices, like they're bringing trauma treatment involves Reiki all the time. The VA uses Reiki, right? Acupuncture, all of these different things, science and data are beginning to move closer to this indigenous wisdom. And I think, for me at least, I started to get in the beginning hung up on the differences in words, and I didn't understand them as concepts that had similarity, and in fact, a lot of overlap. And as I've done more of this work and as I've trained, and truthfully, as I've applied it to myself. So the process of learning shamanic healing, sometimes I can't talk. The process of learning this means you go around that medicine wheel for yourself. And you do that many times because there's always stuff that doesn't serve you. We bring in new stuff. Sometimes it works or we're done with it. It just didn't work anymore. It did then. It doesn't now. In psychology, we call those coping skills. Coping skills, energy that serves us or doesn't serve us. We have coping skills that no longer serve us and energy that no longer serves us. I know. I just get so excited as I've begun. And so in many ways, I see myself as a translator from this more energetic or what people call like woo-woo world and the scientific data-driven world. And what I am trying to do, what I do is to sort of translate both of those languages into the commonalities and the ways in which we can all benefit. And I want to share something. I was talking to someone yesterday afternoon, and she said, I just have to say, I am so impressed with how at peace and calm you are. And, I was like, okay, like, where is this going, right? You just don't know. And then she said, like, you have a lot of energy. We might have noticed that. And you've always had a lot of energy. But this is someone who's known me for a while. And she said, but I've really seen a shift for you. Like, over time, it's continued to change. But there was a particular shift that's then continued to change. And I said, oh, by any chance, do you know when that is? And she said, yes, I do. I know exactly when that was. And it was when it was first shift was after you began to really utilize your own shamanic practice. And the second level of shift was after you went to Peru and connected. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that because I thought that was pretty awesome. I'm like, oh my God, I love that. Like, because that's not me reflecting, that's just somebody else sharing something. So, okay, so I went on and on and on, but back to you. Any questions or things that you'd like to know a little bit more about in our last couple minutes? Jill?
No.
You're still on unmute, so you're all good? All right, I can't wait to find out what those additional thoughts and data are. Okay, so, and Gail, I see your message. I've become a real believer in synchronicity and things that connect us and move us on our path. Because I believe that's Aini, right? That's, for me, that's what it is. And that's the way that I try to live, I work. So my onion that I peel is to be in Aini. And just to be clear, that is not always true. There are times that I am not at all. And I was in Mexico last week doing some different kinds of shamanic work and some other transformational stuff. And I was at the Mayan ruins. And anyway, a ton of really cool things happened. But I had a coaching conversation with someone coaching me, because, if I coach someone, I have to be coached too. And, I was not in Aini at all. No, I was resistant and crabby and, well, frankly, just pissy. And I really had to struggle with that and deal with that, because that's that onion part. I mean, not that you are an onion, but there's always layers, and layers are fine. There's no good or bad. We are perfect in our imperfection. And the beauty of it is, and thanks to Mom for putting this in there, but really, because through being in alignment and shifting out what no longer serves us, the fantastic part is that we get to give that back, right? We become intertwined, inextricably intertwined with all of creation. And as much as we receive, we are able to give back. So really, if you want to do the rest of the world a favor, you will shift out some of the energy that doesn't serve you and give it back to the earth so somebody else can benefit, because somebody else needs what isn't working for you. I am so delighted to have spent this time. It is exactly 11 o'clock, so I am going to say goodbye. Now, if you've enjoyed this webinar, I'd love you to post some comments or make a post anywhere on Facebook, or really, frankly, anywhere that you can, because I'd like to do some other webinars. And specifically, I'd like to talk more about journeying and how journeying brings clarity. So spread the word, get in touch, let me know, and thank you so much for spending this time with me. Mwah! Have a good day.